Okay, let's move on. Obviously, Michigan won the division a year ago and finally beat Ohio State, made the playoff.
Yep.
12-2 on the season overall, 8-1 in conference. Fourth according to F plus, 10th on offense, 11th on defense. Projected to be fourth again this year by SP plus. Number 6 on offense, number 20 on defense. Jim Harbaugh entering his 8th season somehow already at Michigan.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking at those projections, like it's pretty clear. Like it's been well documented by everyone who covers college football. People expect their offense to get a little better and their defense to get worse because they did lose some studs. But it is still a good team. Um, I think the big story on offense probably is the quarterback battle. Caden McNamara returns. J.J. McCarthy returns after playing some a year ago and being that five-star freshman a year ago. And it's like, yeah, that could end up obviously being a big storyline, which direction they go, especially by the end of the year. The running backs are really good. They got Blake Corum. Donovan Edwards was a beast as a true freshman a year ago.
Uh-huh.
Probably will improve. Pretty good receivers. They get Ronnie Bell back. They have guys like Cornelius Johnson. There's a few other names. Andrell Anthony. It's not Ohio State's receiving core, but it's the four-star version of that. Like it's pretty good. It's pretty dang good. Good offensive line. They lose a few guys, but like it's still going to be pretty good. Their defense was amazing last year. We all know this. They did lose most of their impact players, but there's still some guys. Mozzie Smith. Their corners are both back. Before we go on to the schedule, what do you think about this team personnel wise? What stands out to you as strengths, weaknesses, whatever?
The okay, since I'm not allowed to talk about the schedule, which I really want to talk about.
We'll get there.
Okay. Quarterback battle is still on, right? I think Harbaugh even said both guys are going to see time again this year. So I mean, and props to him for keeping both guys around in the transfer portal world. Yeah, all the switching that's going on, being able to keep both guys there and competing says something at least, and makes them both believe that they're going to win the job. So yeah, running back and receiver, there's talent, no doubt. Mm-hmm. They have talent. And I think the receivers are a little underrated. Like you said, I think there's certainly something there, maybe a little underrated. I think what was interesting was when Josh Gaddis, the offensive coordinator from last year, left, he went to Miami, the same job at Miami, kind of a lateral move, which was a little interesting. So like the new coordinators are like they're co-offensive coordinators. It's Matt Weiss and Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore are the new co-offensive coordinators. Seeing how that works, like, yeah, I'm not sure. I think Michigan overall as a team is being undervalued. I think they have created that game against Ohio State at the end of the year is probably going to be for the Big Ten East. Mm-hmm. Michigan, even though they have to go on the road and play that game, has presented themselves with an opportunity to beat them back-to-back years. And like, imagine if they win that game. Like, they're not going to be favored, but imagine if they do. The narrative that you have changed in just 2 years is incredible. You become the guy. Like, you have then become the guy in the East, and like you're probably a Big Ten champ, maybe a playoff team again. And like the whole narrative has really taken a 180. You went from the team that could never do it to suddenly, where's Ryan Day at? Suddenly, like you make serious questions about Ohio State and like their whole situation. So yeah, credit to Michigan for putting themselves in that situation. The number is, you said, was it 9.5? Is that right?
Yes, 9.5.
Like, can I talk about their schedule now? Because it is so soft, dude. They're non-conference, man. Look at their non-conference. So they start off with Colorado State, which has a new coach, Hawaii, who is absolutely terrible, UConn, who is slightly worse than Hawaii. Like, that's their first 3 games. They're going to hammer those teams. Like, the number, like, there's no way they lose more than 3 games. Like, I don't see how you do. I think 10-2 is probably the worst you do. That said, I'm going over. I think over is fairly easy for Michigan. You can lose to Ohio State and Penn State and still have your number hit. So yeah, I guess it's obvious where I'm going. I like their mental makeup. Maybe they're tough. Maybe I'm buying into the toughness thing. The whole anti-analytics. That's what Jim Harbaugh is, I guess. And that's where I'm going. So I'm going with the over for Michigan in 2022.
I mean, the analytics have them fourth in the country.
No, sure. No
And
doubt.
I'm actually lower on them than that. Like I don't like I don't
You
think
hate
they're
Harbaugh. You've always hated Harbaugh. Just admit it.
so I expect them to take a step back in terms of quality of play this year. Man, that schedule.
It's so soft. They're playing no
I
one.
have to go over. I have to, and I will. And I feel pretty good about it just because it's so bad. I actually think that the number being as low as it is at 9.5 almost confirms my belief a little bit that they'll probably take a step back.
Yeah.
Just because, yeah, that schedule is so bad. If it was 10.5, you'd have to think about it.
Sure.
And yeah, I think they probably go 10-2. That's probably my prediction. And a solid year and probably a New Year's Six Bowl to go with that. And that's a good season. The other thing to talk about with Michigan is just looking towards the future. And right now they have the number 27 class in the country for 2023.
Yeah.
And it's under 50% blue chips. You know, as a Georgia fan, you just recently took their top recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been tough going, which is just weird since they came off of that. They just came off a playoff appearance and their recruiting nosedived. Now, obviously, there's still time, but they're running out of great options. Like it feels like it's going to be one of those classes that ends up about 15th in the country with about 11 4-stars and 14 3-stars. Like that feels like that's what it's going to be. And that has to be disappointing if you're Michigan because it feels like they should do better than that. Am I wrong?
I think there is a narrative out there that after a playoff appearance, you should have a huge spike in it. And I think even Georgia's finding that out. Like Georgia just won a national championship. I assumed that like we're going to absolutely dominate in recruiting. Like no one will ever stop us. It's been a struggle for Georgia. Georgia has not recruited well coming off that championship. I think I expected them to certainly recruit better. I know most other people did. I think Michigan's going through the same thing. I think NIL is a real issue here for certain schools that aren't jumping in. I think you're seeing some of the old school coaches, kind of the old school guys, struggle, and well, they're just slower to adapt. I think they're adapting. I think they're just slower to it. Harbaugh certainly was striking me as the guy that's not going to just jump all into NIL stuff. I know Kirby Smart's not. There's a number of coaches there that are struggling with. That's the fact of it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, did Michigan get to a playoff appearance by recruiting 5-stars? Like, I think they got there by developing Hutchinson and Ojabo, like guys that were a little raw. They have JJ McCarthy, who's a 5-star quarterback, which is great to have. But Cade McNamara was the starter that really got them there. So, yeah, I mean, he was recruited. They're going to get good players. I'm not saying they're just going to get scrubs. Is it concerning? Yes. Is it freak out mode yet? No. There's a lot of time left in this cycle, and Michigan has a lot of money. And if we want to get into a spending war, they can spend with anyone, and Harbaugh said as much.
So why aren't they doing that? Because it feels like they're thumbing up their nose at NIL. Like literally, we're too good for that.
Yeah.
And there are other schools like Ohio State and Notre Dame that haven't like fully embraced it, where it's more like we're going to pay our players once they get to campus, as opposed to dropping bags on recruits. And it feels like Michigan is not even hardly going that far. Like it's like NIL is kind of beneath us. It's sort of the attitude you get from them, and it's a little rough. Like I think I would be pretty concerned personally.
Yeah. I think guys will adjust though. Like I think some of these coaches will adjust. I hope Kirby Smart does. I'm a Georgia fan. I hope he adjusts a bit. Saban has. I mean, who are we kidding? Like, look at the last week he had. Remember when we thought, like, hey, look at Alabama. They're like recruiting like 25th in the nation. And it was like, if you think they're not getting in the top 5, you're absolutely nuts. And then, in the space of 3 days, they had, I don't know, 4 or 5 5-stars commit. And suddenly they're number 2 right now. So, Yeah,
And they just got Keon Keeley, Notre Dame's #1 commit, who's like a top 10 player in the country, the #1 edge in the country, has been committed to Notre Dame for over a year.
When did that happen?
He just visited Alabama. Excuse me. They got him to visit. They didn't actually flip him yet, but it's a concern.
Yeah,
Alabama is the one school that they can talk to anybody they want. They can go after everyone else's top commits, and they have to actually think about it. Keon Keeley is a Notre Dame fit through and through and seems to love Notre Dame. He's been committed for over a year. But when Alabama calls, you have to at least listen.
Yeah.
And they're on a different level right now. Obviously, we're talking about Michigan. Sorry for the Alabama tangent, but it's just slightly different. That's just a different level.
No,
but I think Michigan actually would have a chance to be something close to that if they would embrace it and if they would try.
They have the money. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Like Michigan as a university is loaded, as an athletic department is loaded. You can go through their facilities, and I mean, they have some of the best in the country. So I think it's a matter of time when they want to get on board with that. And I think it's taken some guys just longer to adjust than others, and they've been unwilling. They didn't want to adjust to NIL and that kind of stuff. So yeah, and maybe it's necessary. Maybe this is necessary, and then Harbaugh will change his mind and they'll start spending some money.
Yeah, could be.